Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Thank you for taking your time out this evening and for showing an interest in one of our events. So this is really exciting for us because it will be the first time that we'll have ventured into the Arctic, but it won't be the first time that we've worked with different travel. So we take on board these challenges with two goals in mind. One is to enable you, our fundraisers, to do something amazing. And every year we try to find new and exciting challenges to help you tick off that bucket list, to have one of those once in a lifetime experiences. Because ultimately what we're supporting you to do is, on this amazing experience, we're supporting you to fundraise for our hospice. And our hospice relies so much every year on people like you who are willing to take on these life-changing experiences and these amazingly difficult at times challenges. Our hospice is funded primarily by fundraisers like you. So every year, and let's take away this strange year that we've all been through, every year we need to raise over £4 million just to keep our doors open. We get only 22% of our funding from the NHS. So the money that we raise through supporters like you is absolutely critical to help us to deliver our care. And our care involves reaching out to people who are coming to the end of their lives. So they may have, some of our patients have several years to live, and we work with them all the way through that journey. And some of our patients, when we first work with them, will have only a few weeks to live. So whichever part in their journey they're on, we will be there for them, to guide them through, to be there with their family, to make sure that that final part of their life is as good as it can possibly be. And as you can imagine, that requires extremely specialist care, extremely complex nursing care, and that's what we pay for. That's what we're fundraising for. So I can assure you that any funds you raise, and by taking part in anything for our hospice, you're directly supporting the people that we care for every single day. And that people are being cared for right now as we're here. So it's every night of the week, every single day of the year, either at home or on our IPU unit at Willen Lake, people are being cared for right now. And we can only do that by reaching out to our community. And by challenges like this are extreme. We do a special one like this once a year. So it's always exciting for us. It's always exciting for myself and Dawn and our fundraising team as we pull an event like this together, because the energy that surrounds the people who take part in these events, like yourselves, is always good fun, and it's electric, and we're with you the whole step, every step of the way, and Dawn especially. So it's a huge thank you. It's a huge genuine thank you, because we simply couldn't do what we do. We couldn't reach out and support those people if we didn't have the care from our community that raises the funds so that we can make sure that those people are cared for as best as they possibly can be. So thank you, Lexi. I'm looking forward to finding out more about this. I have heard the presentation before, and I know it is, but I love it. It's great to see the snow. I've loved it this weekend, and this is proper snow that we're going to experience now. So huge thank you to all of you. Yeah, and let's go into the Arctic with Lexi. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. So thank you to everybody this evening for joining us. As we said, we're going to be talking about an amazing adventure and a fantastic way to support Willen Hospice next year. So I'm also going to very briefly just touch on another event that we're running this year, this spring, all being well, to Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge as well. So the main point of this will be to talk about the Arctic, but in case you're inspired to support Willen Hospice in two ways, then we can talk about that as well. But first of all, let's talk about something which is a little bit kind of sort of practical and perhaps not as exciting as thinking about traveling to the Arctic. It's thinking about, unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we want to do is we want to reassure you that when you book a place on any of our trips, we will never ever operate it if it's any risk to yourself. So if the pandemic is still ongoing by March of next year and things are problematic in terms of getting away safely, or let's say there's quarantine upon arrival in Sweden or back into the UK or anything like that, we will not operate the trip. We will look to postpone it to the following year. If you can't make those dates, then you'll be entitled to a refund of your deposit, so you don't need to worry about kind of booking on something and losing your money if the pandemic affects the operation of it. As a company, health and safety is our #1 priority. We obviously want to make sure that you have fun as well. That is definitely a priority too, but health and safety is the thing that underlines everything that we do. So, please do rest assured that if you do book a place and the pandemic does affect it in any way, that you will be protected. And, like I say, either the trip will be postponed or cancelled and you'll receive a refund. So you can rest assured that booking will be no financial risk to you. So before we get into the good stuff, let me quickly briefly talk to you a little about the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge that we hopefully have coming up this year in June. So the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge is a UK-based challenge, which will be fantastic training for the Arctic Challenge, as well as a great thing to do to support the hospice. So it's a circular walk, which involves covering 24 miles in total, summiting 3 of the peaks in the Yorkshire Dales, a really wonderful, beautiful part of the UK. And what makes it a challenge is that you have to complete it within 12 hours. And that's a long, long way to trek. That's, almost 40 kilometers of trekking. It's almost a marathon distance, essentially, to trek over 3 hills, massive hills, in under 12 hours. So it's a really, really good meaty challenge if you're looking for something to push yourself, to get some great training in, meet other team members, perhaps if you're taking part in the Arctic as a sort of a team bonding experience. And as I say, also as a really fantastic way to support Willen Hospice. So for those of you that don't know, the 3 peaks that you'll be climbing on this challenge is Ingleborough, Pen-y-Ghent and Warrenside. So there are 3 mountains in the Yorkshire Dales, about 700 meters high. So really, really good, beautiful scenery in the heart of Yorkshire. If you are interested, full details can be found on the Willen Hospice website, or you can contact the fundraising team using the email address just there. Everything is included in the trip. The only thing you need to think about yourself is you need to bring your own tent. It'll be camping all the way. So again, a great adventure and fantastic training for the Arctic experience as well. There's 15 places available. I believe we've had about half a dozen bookings so far and lots of interest still. So if you are interested, we're going to be closing bookings at the beginning of March. So do get in there nice and quickly. To sign up, you pay a £95 registration fee, and then you're asked to fundraise £510 by the end of March. And that's split into 2 fundraising targets that you can see there. There's also a self-funding option if you wanted to pay your own trip costs yourself and fundraise separately. If you're interested, have a chat with Dawn or any of the team members at in the fundraising department, and they'll be very happy to help you. So let's get on to what you actually want to hear about tonight, and let's talk about the Arctic Survival Challenge. So it's taking place in March of next year, so that is a year and 2 months from now. Really, really exciting. I'm sure that all of you have enjoyed, or hope all of you had the chance to enjoy the amazing snowy weather that we've had over these past few days. It's been absolutely magical. Unfortunately for me in the North Yorkshire at the moment, there isn't any snow, but I have been able to enjoy it over the past few weeks. So I'm absolutely reveling in talking about this tonight and getting you all excited about this amazing opportunity. So hopefully I can play you a small video which gives you a kind of a snapshot of what the experience is like. So fingers crossed this will work. So there we go. That's a very kind of general overview of the experience that you will be able to enjoy next year. So to kind of put that into some context and explain a little bit more about what you're going to be doing, let me talk you through the itinerary. So you're heading off to Sweden, and it's the area that you'll be going to is about 150 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. So you are guaranteed snowy weather, and I can absolutely guarantee with absolute certainty on many of our challenges and adventures overseas, we can't guarantee the weather because it is so variable, but in the Arctic Circle, snow will definitely be around. So the challenge is in two parts. The first part is kind of about how to adjust to life in these really extreme conditions. So you'll be doing kind of lots of training, learning about survival skills, things like how to travel in the Arctic using the different methods that is traditionally used there, how to light and maintain fires, how to chop wood, how to construct your own shelters, which you will inevitably sleep in yourself towards the end of the challenge. You'll also have the chance to try some really great activities like husky sledding, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, and things like that. And I know that sounds kind of like a holiday, but this is an example of the way that you would traditionally get around in the Arctic Circle. So we consider it to be an educational and fun aspect to the challenge. So after you've completed your kind of first few days of training, you move into the survival phase. And that is where you move into the accommodation that you have been building over the past few days. And it's very, very challenging. You have snow holes to sleep in, you've got natural shelters, you've got traditional tents, and it's just magnificent. You're sort of putting yourself out there into the middle of the wilderness in these extremely cold conditions, and together as a team surviving the Arctic. So let me show you where you'll be visiting. So there's a map of Northern Europe there. You can see Sweden. Where the little red dot is where you'll be located for the duration of the challenge. The nearest town to where you'll be is called Holingi. Very, very small town with essentially petrol station and a hot dog shop, if I remember correctly. So pretty basic and very remote. And when you're staying there, in the during the challenge, you'll be staying in a really beautiful remote section of this region with just your fellow team members and your huskies to keep you company. So really wonderful experience. So going straight into the itinerary, you will fly from London to Östersund, possibly an indirect flight via Stockholm. And from there, it's about an hour's drive from the airport to your cozy log cabin in the wilderness. And when you arrive, you'll have a light snack, depending on the flight times, either light snack or dinner before an orientation around the cabin area. So you'll find out what the cabin's like, where the toilet facilities are, where the sauna and the hot tub is, very important for later on in the week, and learn about how the daily routine works every day. Now, meals are cooked as a team, so it's a very collaborative experience, which is a lot of fun. You'll be taking it in pairs in a rota formation, so you will cook your breakfasts and the dinners in pairs in the kitchen there, using the materials and produce that's provided for you, so you can be as creative as you want. Don't worry if you are a terrible cook or if you're not very creative, that's not a problem at all. We can always pair you up with someone who is, or you can help with doing more of the washing up or setting the table instead, so don't panic about that. We try and get everyone to get involved. As I say, it's a really collaborative experience, it's a great team experience, and you have the opportunity to kind of really support one another through this separate part of the challenge. So after the first evening, you go to bed. It's basic kind of bed conditions. You can see in the pictures here, it's kind of dormitory style bedrooms. So earplugs are recommended. There's always a snorer or two to be found. But it's a cozy cabin, as I say, really remote and beautiful. There's no electricity, so it kind of gets you off the grid. And you can just enjoy the peace and quiet of being in the Arctic. So here's a couple of pictures of the cabin and the accommodation there as well. You can see on that picture there, but I'll just pop back that second picture you can see here with the log fire. This cabin is so cozy, and part of the experience of staying in the log cabin is making sure that the fire is always stoked. So throughout the night when you're staying in the cabin, you'll take it in turns to get up on a kind of hourly rotational basis and make sure that the log fire is stoked to keep you nice and warm throughout the night. And there's something wonderful about a log burning stove, isn't there? For me, it typifies winter. So after a good night's rest, you will have breakfast, as I say, prepared in your teams, and prepare a snack lunch that you'll take out with you for the day. And then a really important part of the day is a safety briefing, and that's about cold related injuries and how to look after yourself in these cold conditions. Obviously we've experienced a really cold snap at the moment, and I think Dawn mentioned to me earlier that the temperature's due to get down to about -4 there this evening. The temperatures that we're talking about here are significantly colder than that, so we could see temperatures of -25. So it's a little bit chillier than in the UK, so it's really important that we do this safety briefing just to make sure that you are happy with what to expect in these kind of conditions, how to manage it if you're not feeling comfortable in the conditions, how to change your layers so that it fits with the activities you're doing, and so on and so forth. As I say at the beginning, health and safety is number one. After our briefing, then we head out onto our cross-country skis to explore the local area. Now, don't worry if you've never done any skiing before. It's absolutely fine to be a complete beginner. I certainly was the first time I stepped foot in the skis. I have to say I wasn't standing for very long. I was on my bottom quite quickly, but you soon get the hang of it, and it's lots of fun. I think part of the fun of these kind of activities is learning and making mistakes and just enjoying the experiences. So you take this really lovely kind of trail around through the forest. It's about a 5-kilometer route, so it's not hugely long, but it's a great opportunity to get out there on the cross-country skis and give it a go. When you've had your lunch, you'll come back around to the cabin and start some more training. So this afternoon, you'll do some fire lighting skills training, which is really, really fun, learning how to use a traditional kind of striking tool to create sparks and create fire from the wood that you have found, which is really, really important as a training skill for the days to come when you are in the survival period of the challenge and creating fires to keep you warm whilst you're sleeping outside. Later on that evening, you'll head over to an area not too far away from the cabin, where you'll actually start constructing your quinsy, which is a snow hole where you'll stay for the rest of where you'll stay later on in the week. So you'll start constructing it on your first full night and have the opportunity to kind of build your home essentially. And there tends to be some fun and gentle competition about who has the most beautiful, who has the biggest snow hole. So consider that if you are a competitive person. You might want to bring maybe some bunting or some fun things, maybe a Willen Hospice banner to decorate your snow hole, make it the winner. You'll spend that night again in the cabin and then head out the next day to your snowmobiling session. So it's about an hour's drive north from the cabin, and you'll arrive at the snowmobile centre and you'll be having another safety briefing about how to use the snowmobiles and being fitted for helmets and all of that kind of stuff. If you want to drive the snowmobile, you do have to have a full UK driving licence. The restrictions, I think, or the requirements may have changed because of Brexit. And I will check into that and see if there's any major differences. But as far as I'm aware, the UK driving licence is absolutely fine at this time. You'll head off into pairs and you'll take turns driving and being a passenger. You'll have about a 5 to 6 hour trip in total, so you have plenty of time behind the wheel, as it were, of the snowmobile, zooming through the snowy, magnificent forests, this amazing wilderness where everywhere around you is kind of shimmering with this wonderful snow and ice. It's really, really fantastic. You stop halfway and have a hot lunch, perhaps, I don't know, maybe we had barbecue burgers and sausages, which was really nice, lunchtime treat, and some hot drinks at lunchtime in a small hut, not too far away on the trail, and then continued back to the snowmobile centre and onwards to the cabin. Again, it's a really, really kind of full-on day, lots of amazing scenery to be explored, and again, another way of learning about the local culture. You know, travelling by snowmobile is a typical method of transport in this particular area. After you've had a hearty dinner, you will continue building your Quincy, your snow hole. And you know, it's a hard work job. It's out in the cold for hours. You're digging, you're shoveling, you are sculpting. You know, it takes time to build this. So you know, you'll be out there pretty much every night until you move in. So as you continue on, you will have another amazing challenge. And I think this is probably a highlight for many, many people, which is your husky sledding adventure. So you will meet your dog team at a nearby lake, which throughout the winter is completely frozen, and you'll use that as your circuit from which you will do your husky sledding. So you'll meet your team, and my gosh, they are amazing, amazing creatures. You'll have seen from the video just how magnificent it is, being there on the sled with them, having them take you kind of around this amazing frozen lake. And you know, it's a magical experience. The thing that struck me most when I did this was approaching the lake, and the dogs were kind of already being set up into teams, and you could hear them barking and yowling and kind of getting really excited. And as soon as so you get onto the sled and you take off the brakes, and off they go, and it's as if you were just transported into this silent landscape, and the dogs are, all you can hear is just the sound of the sled running through the snow and the sound of the dog's paws on the snow as well. And you know, they are so focused and they are having such an amazing time. It's just, there aren't any words that can describe it. It's just magical. After you have enjoyed your day of husky sledding, there'll be an opportunity, if anyone's interested, and if the conditions are right, to do a little bit of ice fishing if you're interested. So that's a possibility. Otherwise, we'll head back to the cabin and continue our training, and this time we'll be talking about safe handling techniques for knives and axes and other equipment, which is going to be really important for the survival stage later on in the week. So what we'll do is we'll go through all of the skills needed for that, learning kind of how to chop down trees, also about, you know, being careful about protecting the environment and not, you know, chopping down wood when it's not necessary and things like this. And then once we've finished our training, then we continue to our first part of the survival experience. So what we'll do is we will erect a traditional Scandinavian tent, which in the center of the tent has this amazing log burner, and you can see the picture of the tent in the bottom right hand side of the screen there. And what we'll do is we'll get inside nice and cozy. You've got your sleeping bags, really, really warm sleeping bags that are provided for you. And you have in the center of the tent, if you imagine kind of like almost like a teepee, in the center of the tent, you have this amazing log burning stove. And you'll take it in pairs to wake up every hour to do a watch on the log burner, to make sure that it's stoked, to make sure that everyone is okay, and to make sure that, most importantly, everyone is nice and warm inside the Scandinavian tent. So that will be your first introduction to sleeping outside in the Arctic. Now outside, the temperature could drop down to minus 25, minus 30 degrees. But inside, if you're doing a good job, it should be nice and cozy, maybe 15 degrees, maybe 20 degrees if you've got some really good fire stokers in the team. Now that evening, you will, because you're moving into the survival stage, your meals will be moving to the more traditional survival style foods. So we'll be moving to freeze-dried meals rather than home-cooked meals. And again, this kind of adds another element to the challenge. You know, it's getting kind of rough and ready, back to basics. And at this point, you were kind of committing to being there in the wilderness, away from the cabin, sort of saying goodbye to the luxuries of the cabin and committing to the adventure stage, the challenge of to come for the next few days. So you can see here some of the amazing dogs that you'll be joining with. So after a good night's rest in your Scandinavian tent, you've got to put your skills into practice and create a natural shelter which you'll be sleeping in that evening. So everything that you have learned over the past few days will be put into practice. You'll be, fully kind of guided and instructed on how to do this and the best ways of creating it so that you're nice and cozy and warm. And honestly, this is such a fun part of the challenge, in my opinion. Starting from scratch, just seeing kind of trees and, bare space, to gradually building up this framework and then adding to it and building somewhere that you'll call your home for the night. And you can see in the pictures at the bottom of the screen here, it's kind of development of the amazing construction of your home. And there's something great about kind of taking pride in building your own accommodation whilst you're there. Now, I will mention that, of course, I mentioned at the beginning that cold weather and snow is guaranteed. One thing that we can't guarantee is exactly what the temperatures will be. Now, for safety reasons, if the weather conditions or the temperatures are too severe, then we probably will not sleep inside these natural shelters overnight, but instead move back into the Scandinavian tent for another night. Again, taking it in turns to stoke the fire. If the weather conditions are kind of suitable, so anything down to about -20, then we'll go for it and we'll sleep outside under those shelters. And again, taking turns to stoke the fire that you'll have in front of your shelter. So you can see here one of the fantastic examples of the shelter that someone had built. I cannot take credit for this one. This was a previous group, I'm afraid. So the final day of the kind of survival challenge side, and it's about spending the whole day perfecting and constructing your quinsy, your snow hole. So what you'll do is you will dig out the interior and you'll shape it with axes and spades to carve a kind of domed ceiling. And there'll be 2 entrances so that you've got a little bit of space to kind of come and go. And there'll be a ledge for a candle, because ambience is absolutely the most important thing in your snow hole. However, there is another reason that you'll need to have a candle in there, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So it will take you most of the day to construct the snow hole, and it is a very scientific process, which your guides will explain to you. Once you've moved in, you will be sleeping kind of side by side with your teammates, as you can see there. So it's very, very cozy. Again, all of the equipment is provided for you, so really cozy sleeping bags, the bivy bag that you'll put over the top of your sleeping bag, enveloping the sleeping bag to make sure it keeps dry. So you don't need to worry about bringing anything kind of super duper warm, that's already provided. And I mentioned about the ledge for the candle. Now, it's so important that there is a ledge for a candle, and it is not just about ambience. One of the things that's really important is making sure that there is plenty of oxygen inside your snow hole. And as you probably will know, that oxygen is required for flames to continue burning. So the candle acts as a kind of an indicator that there's plenty of oxygen within the snow hole. So we take it in turns, rather than stoking the fire, we take it in turns to do candle watch. So every hour, someone will be waking up the next person to do their hour of candle watch. And that might sound like a very unusual and strange thing to do, but I tell you something, having the opportunity to wake up at, let's say, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and just staring at a candle for an hour in this silence, surrounded by a snow hole that you've built yourself in the middle of the Arctic, where outside it could be -25 degrees, inside it's about 0 degrees. So it's still kind of nippy, but relatively warm. There's just something very, very relaxing about that. And for me personally, it was a great opportunity to reflect, and when do you have an hour just to sit with your thoughts? So really, really amazing opportunity, as well as, you know, very important survival aspect of the challenge as well. So here's a couple of pictures of what it's like to be inside the snow hole. Really, really magnificent. So very early in the morning, you'll be woken up by your guides, who incidentally, they will be camping next to your snow holes throughout the entire night and keeping an eye on things to make sure that if anyone's got any concerns or problems, or goodness me, if a snow hole decides to fall apart and you all get covered in snow, that you'll be looked after and dried off and warmed up nice and quickly. So again, safety is absolutely number one. So they will wake you up bright and early in the morning. You will say farewell to your snowy home and return to the cabin for a well-deserved breakfast. The rest of the day is free for you to enjoy the area. So perhaps you could do some more skiing along the trail that you went on the first day, maybe explore a bit more by foot. Maybe just kind of enjoy being in the cozy warmth of the cabin and, you know, talking with your teammates, or you know, just reflect on what you've been doing. There's anything that you want to do. However, there's one thing that is very, very important that you need to do whilst you're there, and we'll take this in turns even if you are away doing activities, and that is making sure that the fires are stoked in the bathroom and in the sauna and the hot tub. Now, in the bathroom is essentially a wet room. There is a really big wood burning stove in there. So you'll get the wood burning in there to make it nice and warm so you can have a shower and melt the water to have your first shower of the week. Very exciting. Of course, the hot tub needs to be heated, so we have to get the wood burning for that and make sure that that's nice and hot for our relaxation later on. You can see a picture of the hot tub in the bottom of the screen there. And of course, next to that is the sauna, and that needs to, of course, be heated up, ready for our relaxation. And, you know, again, this is not just a kind of a treat and relaxation exercise. This is very, very typical Swedish culture. So we're sharing with you the Swedish culture, which is so important to get the full kind of Arctic experience. So after everybody's had a shower, absolutely mandatory if you want to go into the hot tub for hygiene reasons, shower first and then into the hot tub or the sauna and celebrate, you know, a wonderful week of challenges. Then you'll return to the cabin, have a celebratory dinner together, which is cooked by the survival instructors, which is very, very good. So you don't have to worry about cooking tonight. You can just relax and enjoy a wonderful meal together and celebrate. The final day after a good night's rest, you will return to the airport in Östersund and then fly back to London again, possibly via Stockholm after breakfast. So there is your itinerary in a nutshell, and I'll quickly run through some of the frequently asked questions about the experience. So first of all, about the food. I've kind of touched on this a little bit. As I mentioned, all of the meals that you have in the cabin are prepared on a rota basis using the fresh ingredients that are provided for you there. Everyone is expected to chip in some way, cooking, cleaning, preparing the table, washing dishes, collecting water for washing up and things like this. The lunches typically are provided for you and prepared for you by the survival instructors who will be accompanying you throughout the journey. Or possibly you might bring a sandwich or a kind of snack lunch with you on some of the shorter days like the cross-country skiing day. During the survival phase, as I mentioned before, the meals get a little bit more basic. So you're looking at kind of freeze-dried, dehydration, ration pack kind of meals. So again, it adds a little bit of an element of extra challenge to the adventure. And there'll be 3 dinners, 2 lunches and 3 breakfasts that you will have in that format. They grow on you, we'll put it that way. They're simple, they're calorie dense, and they're pretty tasty. If you have any kind of dietary requirements, then do let us know in advance so we can make sure that your needs are catered for. We definitely recommend that you bring plenty of snacks along with you as well to supplement your meals. in the Arctic and any kind of really cold conditions, you burn lots more calories than normal. So it's important to replace those with lots of calorie dense snacks. So if you have a interest in, let's say, I don't know, Mars bars or cheddar cheese or any of those lovely treats, feel free to bring those with you. Here's some of the pictures of the meals. When you're in the cabin, you can see here the sort of layout of the cabin dining table. It's communal meals, so you all sit around the table together, and it's a really wonderful bonding experience. You get to meet people that perhaps you haven't met prior to the trip, and you get to know each other really well as well. So really great experience. All of the, as mentioned, there's no electricity, so all of the meals are by candlelight, so that's also extremely romantic. So I've of course mentioned that we'll be staying in the basic cabin. Gas is supplied through large canisters, which we'll use for cooking, and of course light is provided by candles or head torches, as I mentioned. The wood burning stove, there's a big log shed out there which you can refill the log bucket and make sure that is stoked all the way through the night. And of course you'll be staying in your own shelters throughout the evening. I'm not sure if you can see in the third picture there, that is a thermometer which takes the reading of the temperature inside the cabin and also outside. The top number there is 20.3 Celsius, and that is the temperature that was inside the cabin when I took that photograph. And outside the cabin at that point was minus 23 Celsius. So you can see how cozy it really is inside that cabin. It is, we were sitting around in t-shirts a lot of the time, which felt so wrong. It's a real treat. And just to kind of give you a representation of what that looks like. If you look at the fourth picture, this is actually a video clip which I'll play to you quickly. You'll see what happens when you open the door from this 20-degree warm cozy cabin to the air of the minus 23 outside. So have a look at this. Oh yeah, that's like did you see that? That was the condensation created by, you know, the cold and the warmer air hitting together. Absolutely unbelievable. When I saw that, it kind of reminded me of those big walk-in fridges that you see in kind of you know, catering facilities. Absolutely phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it before. And again, one of those really strange highlights that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you're taking part in a challenge like this. So I'll very briefly touch on probably one of the most frequently asked and, you know, biggest concern questions, which is about the bathroom facilities. So there are two long drop toilets in these beautiful wooden huts just outside of the cabin. The toilet seat is made from polystyrene, so it's always really warm to sit on. So if you've got a cold and drafty house, or you know, a loo which is always cold, consider a polystyrene toilet seat, because I was surprised at how comfortable it was. There is a kind of a briefing on toilet procedure and etiquette, which I will not go through now, especially since I know lots of people are currently eating their tea. There is no running water in the cabin. So any kind of washing that you do will be, in terms of, you know, keeping your own personal hygiene up to scratch, is going to be based on baby wipes and keeping kind of fresh that way. As I mentioned, at the end of the trip, there will be an opportunity to have a shower, and that will be done by melting snow and washing with the snow melt water. It's not possible for us to have that every single day because there is a limited amount of wood that we can provide. And you know, we want to make sure that we're not having too much of an impact on the environment. So that's kind of the toilet situation in a quick nutshell. We'll skip past that nice and quickly. And again, I've mentioned the conditions there. The temperatures could reach, you know, minus 30 overnight. Typically at this time of the year in the March, it's around about minus 26, with a high temperature of about -1 during the day. So it will be pretty nippy. The sun tends to rise just about 6:45 a.m. and sets just around 5:40 p.m. So, you know, the days aren't very long, but I can tell you the temperatures that I'm talking about here, it sounds phenomenal, but there's something very energizing and invigorating about these temperatures. It is so crisp and dry. It's not the kind of damp, cold, weather that we get in the UK, where it feels like it's kind of getting into your bones, it feels very, very different to that. It's hard to explain, but it's a lot more manageable than it would sound. And of course, the weather conditions that come with that do vary the temperature and how that feels. So if it's a bright sunny day, for example, it could feel warmer than if it's a cloudy or overcast day. Something I noticed personally was that you could kind of roughly tell what the temperature was even without checking the temperature by listening to your body and kind of experiencing the weather sort of fully. The thing in particular that myself and my group noticed was that anything below minus 17 degrees, the small hairs in your nostrils start to freeze, and you can feel the ice building up inside your nostrils. And that's how we knew what the temperature was most of the time. If we felt like we needed to blow our noses, it was probably under minus 17 degrees. So there we go. So how difficult is it? Well, this is a really tricky question to answer because it is so personal, and it depends so much on your individual experience, your outlook, your physical fitness, and your general kind of background. So typically we rate this as a challenging challenge, which means that it is tough going for most people at some point during the trip. So the kind of person that would really get a lot out of this challenge would be someone who likes getting outdoors, maybe taking part in running or hill walking or kind of outdoor exercising, maybe playing sports and things like that, walking the dog regularly, and just kind of being outdoors. And, you know, even if you've not really kind of spent a lot of time outdoors, but you've got that desire and that drive to get out there into the wilderness, it would also be a great one for you as well, because it has a way of kind of giving you the opportunity to experience things in a very controlled way. So say you're accompanied by survival instructors and also a different travel tour leader as well. So you'll be well looked after throughout the trip. And you know, with the cold weather that we've got at the moment, it's a great opportunity to train and start getting used to the kind of challenges that cold and you know, difficult weather brings. Now, of course, the other side of things is that, you know, you'll be staying in mixed gender dormitories, so that's a consideration. There's a physical kind of element to it, so chopping wood and carrying, you know, big branches to construct your natural shelter is physically demanding. You know, chopping firewood, keeping, you know, awake for an hour at a time in the middle of the night to stoke fires and so on, it is demanding. There'll also be the kind of important parts of, you know, cooking for a team and making sure that the cabin is clean and tidy and hygienic for each other, and various different other things that will be kind of a challenge and very unusual for most kind of adventures. And if you've done sort of other charity challenges before, it is quite a different situation. And it's just so important as well that you take personal responsibility for being fit enough, physically fit enough, to take part in all of the activities and be a really great team member. This is not the right experience for someone that wants to spend their time on their own. Of course, there'll be opportunities where you have some alone time and you can, you know, have those peaceful moments. Like I mentioned, when you're there doing your candle watch, it's a wonderful hour of just kind of me time, as it were. But you must be a team player in order to enjoy this trip. You know, it is not suitable for people that are wanting to go off on their own and do their own thing. You've got to be able to support each other as a team. It is very, very challenging, and going off on your own will not be kind of in the spirit of this challenge. So, you know, it's important that you have that side of things down, and also knowing how to look after yourself as well. And that sounds perhaps a little bit silly, but you know, knowing when to add layers if you're cold or if you're feeling a little bit thirsty or hungry, to have something to eat or drink, and just kind of being aware of how your body reacts in these conditions so that you can look after yourself every single step of the way. So one of the things that we hope to offer you, COVID permitting, is a training course in near Exeter, which usually takes place around about November of each year, so it'll be this coming November. The idea of that is to get yourselves together as a team, to have a practical kind of hands-on experience and some of the skills that you'll learn whilst you're actually in Sweden. So a little bit of the kind of firelighting stuff, camping in kind of remote conditions, and just kind of getting away from, you know, sort of people and, you know, the comfort of home whilst you're doing your training. So we're hoping that that will take place this November. If it can't take place due to social distancing or anything like that, then we'll probably do an online version. Of course, if by November things are still problematic, at that point we'll probably be looking at postponing the trip. So do bear with us on that. We'll obviously keep you posted, but our fingers are very firmly crossed. So I won't talk too much longer about this. I'm going to hand over soon to Dawn, but just quickly run through on the sort of support that you'll get throughout the challenge. So of course, throughout every single step of the way, the hospice team will be there to support you with your fundraising, with, you know, ideas, you know, meeting up as a group and socialising. You'll be provided with a full kit list when you book, full trip dossier training guide, discount vouchers and loads of support from our end. You'll be supported throughout the trip by your survival instructors and a different travel tour leader, as well as you know, having the training weekend in Exeter, hopefully as well. So you'll be provided with loads and loads of support. And if there's something that you need that you don't think that we're giving you or that you need help with, then just shout and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. So I'm going to hand over now to Dawn, and she's going to tell you a little bit about fundraising, which is what this is all about. So over to you, Dawn.
Thank you, Lexi. Yeah, I've heard your presentation a couple of times and I just feel like I'm there with you because I know you have done this trip, not just heard about it. So yeah, this is to raise money for Willen Hospice, but this is your challenge. So this is your chance to say, do I want to take up this amazing challenge? And at the same time, of all those life skills you'll learn, meet new people, is to raise money for Willen Hospice. I'm the Challenges fundraiser. So I look after people that do running, climbing, cycling. There's been all sorts of great ideas last year because a lot of it had to be cancelled. So it was all sort of, what can I do to help? So we do provide resources, but basically you get me. We will have a Zoom call once you've registered and we'll look at your network, how you would hope to raise the money. And I can help you with lots of ideas. If you want to do any events, whether that's virtual at the minute or you want to hold them, we're allowed to. We've had bingo, obviously cake sales. People like to get something in return if they're sponsoring you. So there's raffles, there's lots of ideas. I can sit down with you and just think of it of lots of small things that will add up to help you towards that fundraising target. It's not normally the big massive gala dinner where you hire a hall and a band, and you know that's a lot of work, and also that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do because you're relying on tickets and sales. So let us help you. You've got the challenge of going to the Arctic and doing that amazing adventure, but you've also got that challenge potentially of raising the money, and I want to help you all of that. So just open mind and we can look at how we can help you personally. We've obviously talked about the hospice. Some of you may have been supported, knowing someone that's been at the hospice or been looked after at home. So Sarah and I have the absolute pleasure to work with our clinical team, our doctors, our nurses, and last year and continues to be a really difficult year. COVID has had a huge impact on the team. You know, personally, that they've been maybe caught COVID early on and been poorly themselves. We're really busy at the minute. We're supporting the local hospital, but everyone that we look after still says how amazing Willen is. And our team always smile. They've always got that time for patients and their families, and that's forever. You know, people need support many years after they've lost their loved one, and we have teams that help them with that. So that's where the funding goes, and all of this is offered free. Nobody pays to be supported by Willen, but we have to come up with great ideas and challenges and events to help raise that 4 million that Sarah spoke about. We're going to look at a video now of Lorraine, who herself and her family was looked after very recently at Willen, and Lorraine will tell her story of the difference that the support from Willen made for her and her family.
couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago, my daughter, who's, well, she was probably about 21, maybe 20, she came and volunteered here. And one particular time she came out and Mark picked her up and said, there's a man who's just like your age, Dad, and it's just heartbreaking. And he was really quite taken back by it and said, oh, I hope one day, would that be me one day? And a couple of years later it was. The top of it, his family man, absolutely loved his family to bits, you know, really, you know. And we've been together since we were 16, so everyone loved him, everyone loved him. At the end of 2017, I picked him up from work just before Christmas, and he said his neck was sore. So we went to the doctor, a lot of pushing from me, and they found out that they thought it was a cut nerve, and that's what they were saying it was. And so he had painkillers and signed off work for a couple of weeks. And then as the time went on, it wasn't really getting any better, but then he did wean blood, and from there we thought something wasn't quite right. So they were treating that as an infection, but I think, you know, it wasn't going away after antibiotics, and they discovered that he had kidney cancer. So it all tumbled into appointments in Oxford and what have you, and they were going to take the kidney out, but he kept saying about his shoulder, and eventually they did a big body scan and found out that the cancer was in his neck. Basically, from the onwards, it was just going downhill. It was treatment, it was chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immunotherapy. We tried everything, but they did say he only had a year to live at the time. He outdid that bit, so, because I knew he would. Without the support of Willen, you know, I don't know what I would have done really. But when I first looked in here, it's just calming. Compared to all the hospitals you go to, you don't get that feeling when you walk through the door, and you know that everyone's doing their best, as they are in the NHS as well, but it's just a different sort of thing. It's set up for people that are going through this awful time, and it's just a nice feeling as you look through the door. And Mark felt the same as well. I was speaking to Willen the whole way through the summer, and the week before he died, we were at home still, and we were speaking every single day. Those phone calls got me through that day, because it's a scary thought knowing that you've got someone at home that could die really in a minute. And it's from me telling them what was going on that day, they could make up their minds to know what is going on, and they so knew that he was coming towards the end of his life. I knew as well, but I probably wasn't. I was just trying to think, okay, we're okay. So they were just waiting for me to come in, and we arranged for him to come on Thursday. He came on Thursday, and it was just the right time for us. I stayed in the room, for 3 nights, and my son came for 2 nights. It was just me and my son, and we knew what was the situation going on. It was very difficult and hard for everyone to have to deal with. So if he'd gone into hospital, then we wouldn't have had anyone at all. And I always promised him, all the way through this, I'll be with you to the end, and I will sit with you and I'll be with you, don't worry, you'll always have me there. I couldn't break that promise, so that's why I stayed, and I'm quite happy to stay. The chair that opens up, and I slept in that. Sam was just on the chair, and the nurses got so sorry for him. They found in the chair, and he could go trying to get this big chair through the door. So we had both chairs like open up, their legs on, blankets on, and Mark in the door. It was like, and that was another thing. It was even though you're going through a really awful experience, the nurses that are here were just so calming, and you could still find a bit of laughter somewhere, just to take the edge of what you're feeling about. And they were so gentle, and so you could, the knowledge of what they're doing was just pouring out. It was just amazing. I mean, all of them. I don't know how they do that. Special people. Couple of years.
Okay, so yeah, Lorraine and Mark, were very happy to share their story with us, just to show how we looked after them. And it's not all old people, it's lots of people of different ages. But yeah, real, again, honour for Lorraine to share that with us. So we talked about your journey in the Arctic, but we obviously are raising funds. So we look at breaking the costs down. So we're very transparent with what the costs are and what we're looking at for you to fundraise. So to join us, we only have 13 places because, as Lexi's put, there's limited space in a cabin and a Scandinavian tent. So £395 registration fee when you book. And then we ask you to raise £3,680. So part of that is the costs for you to take this trip, and obviously the part to run fundraise for Willen. We do give you some dates just to help you with timings, but as I've said, I'll help you with all of this. By the end of this year, so 17th of December, we would ask you to have raised a certain amount of that money. It's very bespoke with ideas, but we have suggestions, and everyone loves a quiz. We've done our own Willen quiz during lockdown. You could ask some people to individually raise money for you. Family and friends, it's really difficult time because obviously some people are furloughed, some people have businesses, but depending on your own network, people will try and help you because they know the difference it will make. People love a raffle, so there's no harm in, I can give you a letter to say you're raising money for Willen, so you can go to local shops and businesses to see if they can help you. Everyone loves the lottery, so you can do where people pay so much to have a ball in the lottery each week. So lots of different ideas that don't take up lots of time, but will make that big difference. eBay is very popular. One thing that we have still available is our own Willen Hospice eBay. Get your head shaved. Oh, everyone's got really long hair at the minute because the hairdressers are shut, but people will pay and sponsor lots of money for people to have their head shaved. So that's another idea. And then food, pizzas. So that's a way of breaking down how could you raise that money that we're looking for to cover the costs and the money for Willen. But as I say, I will help all of you, anyone that signs up, with that. And most people exceed their fundraising, they worry, but then they realise they've actually raised more than that. And when you're actually off in the Arctic, that's another great week to raise money because you can share your story. And any events you have, we will share that on our social media as well.
So you've heard kind of the amazing things that you're going to be doing to support Willen Hospice and the why behind this entire venture. It's not just about, you know, enjoying a fantastic experience in the Arctic. It's about so much more than that. And I'm sure that you're all so familiar with, you know, your own personal reasons and connections to Willen Hospice. And I just kind of wanted to touch on, as a final kind of part, about what it's really like when you're there in the Arctic. And I've told you what it's like in terms of the practicalities, but there's so much more to it than, you know, having a great time. I'll go through the pictures on the screen. You can see on the bottom left there's a picture of a snowflake, a single snowflake that fell on the collar of my jacket. And up until that point, I had never seen a real snowflake, you know, with its amazing arms and fantastic pattern. It's being able to see a snowflake in your eyes in the first time in your life. It's about falling over on your bottom when you are cross country skiing for the first time, as you can see from the left there. That's myself managing to be an idiot in front of my entire group while trying to pretend I'm cool. It's looking at your watch and seeing that the temperature outside is minus 21 degrees and knowing that you are putting yourself through these incredibly tough conditions, all for an amazing cause. It's about meeting people for the first time and then ending up being best mates and cooking buddies, you know, sharing meals together as a team. And it's about meeting people who you may not come across in any other kind of part of the world. You may not cross paths, you may never have met in any other circumstances, and creating this incredible bond. You know, we've all got Willen Hospice in common, and doing this amazing journey to fundraise for such an incredible cause, and, you know, being there to see it through as a team. So if you are interested in supporting Willen Hospice on this adventure, then here's some information about how to book a place. So back to you, Dawn.
Okay, so following the presentation, if you contact us on our fundraising at willenhospice.org.uk website, then you can book your place directly. I can answer any questions. But yeah, really easy to do, and literally application form, some details from you, and that registration fee of £395. So if you put your email on the chat, if it's something I don't already have, I'll make sure I'll send that all through to you after this information evening.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh yeah, I do, if that's all right.
Of course.
Just quickly, the registration fee and the fundraising target, they are separate, aren't they? The fundraising fee isn't the entire amount.
That's correct, yeah. So the fundraising target is separate from the registration fee. So it's £395 to pay as your deposit, as it were, so when you book, and then the fundraising target is separate from that.
Okay. And do Willen Hospice get a good majority of the fundraising target, do they?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's at least 50% of that fundraising target.
Okay.
And of course, if you raise more than your target, then every penny above that is, of course, a donation to them.
James, if I just clarify, it's £395 registration fee.
Yeah.
And £1,840 costs on top of that. So that's all your costs. And then we ask you to raise £1,840 for Willen.
Okay, cool.
The total then is just over £4,000. So that's very clear when you go onto the website as to what's the cost and then what amount Willen will receive on top of those costs.
Hi, I've got a quick question. You said there's 13 places. Is there a minimum number of people that you need to make this go ahead?
Officially, the minimum number is 10, but we'll try and run it at fewer than that. Based on the level of interest that we've had so far, we don't think that there's going to be a problem reaching the minimum number. I think even just on this call this evening, there's 12 people. So we've got people signed up, which is why there's only 13 places left. So yeah. Okay, so
what's the total? What's the max number then?
The maximum is 16.
Okay, great.
So yeah, if you're keen, then we do have places already filled. It'd be great to have you join them.
Lexi, in terms of kits, so I know when I came to your presentation, obviously last year, you were talking about specific kit that we might need. Would you be able to send out links? Because obviously you need snow boots, but you don't necessarily want to go and buy a brand new or really expensive pair for one trip. So can you recommend where you can buy places that that it might be a bit cheaper, that type of thing?
Definitely, yeah. In fact, we had, gosh, where are we now? It's now 2021. So the last Arctic trip we did, so January of 2020, someone asked exactly that question, and I scoured the internet and sent over a list of links of places that you can get secondhand or nearly new equipment which is suitable for this challenge. One place in particular that is well worth looking at, and you can join the group if you're on Facebook. It's called Outdoor Gear Exchange UK, and that's a Facebook group where people essentially buy and sell used or lightly used outdoor equipment, and there is almost always snow boots on there, and keep looking at them thinking, do I need another pair? They're so cheap, it makes sense to have another pair. I have to keep reining myself in, but at the moment, particularly with it being winter, people are upgrading, selling off, changing bits and pieces of their kit, so you can get really, really low cost down jackets at the moment, secondhand. Snow boots are really kind of coming up again, so it's worth having a look on there. I'll pop the link in the chat so you can have a look and see.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's loads of places you can get.
I just had a quick question for Dawn, if that's all right. Sorry, just one
Yeah.
more. Given everything that's going on at the moment, I know you've kind of briefly touched on that, but do you think it's fairly feasible to raise that amount of money? Because that's the only thing that I guess doesn't worry me, but it's, I guess, a bit of a concern. So I did do a skydive a few years ago, and it wasn't that hard because obviously, you know, we could go out and about, go to pubs and raise money and things, but it worries me a little bit with respect to everyone's locked indoors at the moment, you know. And I just wondered, yeah, have you got like a lot of good ideas and things to suggest, I guess?
Yeah, no, definitely, James. And even last year, when everyone was indoors, people were struggling to take part in events. People still raised money. So, you know, people running around their gardens, they were doing, you know, ridiculous amounts of miles, you know, just to try and raise money for the hospice. But we'll break it down with you, James. We'll look at, you know, where you work, what you do, what you're interested in. Bingo is brilliant. The best fundraiser I ever heard was bingo. We're doing our own virtual bingo soon. So, you know, people will be happy to buy tickets to tick off their numbers on the bingo.
I looked into some of those kind of things like raffles and bingos. That's all allowed. You're allowed to do all that, are you? Because there was certain like rules and stuff.
Yeah, so we have, there is
Facebook and things like
lottery and raffles, but yeah, and they have become more lenient because of lockdown. But I'll share the documents, what the rules are and what you're allowed to and not do. But honestly, we will help you, James, so don't worry. And you've got over a year, so it's, there is a lot of time to sort of chip away at this.
If you have a look at that table there on the screen, all of these ideas are things that can be done whilst you're locked down. So none of them actually involve you know, contact with other human beings. So if you can do, you know, that's just a small example of the number of things that you can do. And some of them can raise a lot more than, these are very kind of conservative figures that we've put here. So it's about being imaginative and kind of reaching out to.
I guess with these kind of things, you just get people to like donate the money through your Just Giving page or something, like for the ticket.
Most of it will be, let's get your online page up and running. The more you update it, the more it's about you and why you do it. And so if you was going to do an event, we would share that on our social media. Even if that's a virtual event, people will still buy a ticket. We're doing cooking experiences at the minute as well. You know, come and learn how to ice a cake and things like that.
I won't be doing any of that. I'm no good at cooking.
Oh, James.
How to make a mess, that's what I could do.
But it may well be that you have a skill that you could essentially sell online, and I don't mean that in a weird way. You know, perhaps you're an amazing singer, or you've got, you know, some skill that you can share with people, that, you know, they would be willing to chip in a fiver for, and that's essentially, you know, just using your time in exchange for donations. So again, you know, Dawn and the team are amazing at kind of talking to you and getting to know you and what you're about, and using those things about you to you know, find ways to tap into the fundraising opportunities. You can see on the bottom of the screen there, I calculated how much per day you need to raise until the first fundraising target deadline is due. So as of today, there are 326 days before the first fundraising target, which equates to £9.03 per day to fundraise, which is, you know, okay, I know we're not going out to kind of to bars and restaurants at the moment, but you know, that could be, you know, a lunch and a coffee every day that you would normally be paying when you're going to work, you know, and that kind of thing. And then from the second deadline, so between the 17th of December and the 1st of March, which is the second deadline, there's just £9.94 to raise. So again, by that point, hopefully lockdown is going to be significantly eased, if not completely lifted, well before then. So you'll be able to kind of really ramp that up, and any amount that you haven't been able to raise in that first period, you can kind of top it up in the second bit. So don't be afraid. I think there's some people on the call here that have done fundraising events before. I'm just going to put you on the spot there if you want to chuck out some ideas or personal experiences. I think, Lou, you've done a few things, haven't you?
Yeah, I did throughout May last year. I ran 5k a day for the whole of May, and I raised just over £1,500.
Wow, that's amazing.
We did Borneo Trek last time. I organised some craft fairs, which was kind of getting local people to sell stuff and charge them for that. But you could do a similar thing online, so you could get people together and promote it on social media and kind of get everyone on the same day and doing the same sort of thing. The main thing that I did some quizzes, which was good, and you can do those as Dawn was saying, virtually, I was hosting the Willen Hospice quiz, and that raised over £3,500 over the 6 months that we were doing it. And yeah, we did some tribute nights in local pubs and restaurants. So we had a guy that sang as Frank Sinatra in a curry restaurant, and he was someone that I knew, so he did it for free, and then everyone paid for their meal plus a little bit extra for the entertainment, and that money went towards it. But then we did a raffle on the night, and the raffle prizes were terrible. It was absolute rubbish, but because we went around and chatted everyone up, they'd had a few drinks and they put a lot of money into the raffle. So I don't always feel like you need the world's best prizes to do a raffle. But I think if you're doing it online, people might be a little bit more selective about what they're buying tickets for. But I think the thing with this is just go for it, because it's about doing lots of little things and it all adds up, and you've got a year to do it. So if you break it down by how much you need to raise a month, it's just a few £100s a month, and before you know it, you've done it. But just don't leave it all to the last minute. You've got to start straight away. So I'll bet in the background. But yeah, definitely go for it. It's an amazing experience and a lot easier than you think when you see that bit of money at the beginning. Once you get started, it comes down every time you raise something.
Thanks, Chris. Another good one I helped someone with who's doing Camino is a race night. So again, you can do that virtually. This was actually in a pub in Stoney. Somebody lent the equipment for free, and she raised £2,000 in there, because again, people are becoming the owners of the racehorse. They want to buy to be the owner. But again, anyone, James, I'd sit down with you and say, well, what can we do? So it's definitely possible. But Lou, you've done Borneo, you've Vietnam, or you've done?
No, I didn't do Vietnam, just did Borneo.
And you're doing the Arctic, aren't you? So
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Exciting. Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Fantastic. Well, in that case, we will leave it here. If you do have any other questions, or you're not sort of wanting to shout them out publicly, then feel free to contact Dawn or pop on the website, and you'll find all the contact details there. And we'll be very, very happy to help. Otherwise, thank you so much to everybody for joining us this evening, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Arctic very, very soon.
Oh, thank you, Lex. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.